Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you know somebody who might benefit from the message, please send it to them. So, our angels came in as usual first, and I just felt them sending us these peaceful, healing, hopeful waves of energy because I know that the energy is intensifying so freaking much right now. We are all navigating a lot. And the symbol that I saw was a volcano erupting. And it's like things that have been building up below the surface are reaching a boiling point and erupting. And the energy is so turned up right now. And the message that I got about this collectively intense time on planet Earth is that something to be aware of is that our coping mechanisms are being turned on high right alongside the energy. So the things that we do to try to, numb or avoid or regulate, or the same shadowy narratives of thought, it's like everything that our shadows are trying to do to keep us feeling in control or safe or whatever we have historically done feels like it's on a high level right now. And the benefit of that is that if we can observe it without judgment and saying, this is just who I am, if we can observe it, we can really see, wow, I'm really turning to mindlessly binge eating right now. I'm really watching 5 million hours of Netflix in a row instead of feeling my feelings. I'm really going down the rabbit hole of looking old photos of my ex. Whatever that is, it's coming up on loud right now because it's sort of in proportion with the heightened energy. And I do really feel like the times on planet Earth are so intense. And our angels are like, don't lose hope. And they're really doubling down on connect with us, connect with yourself. Like it feels so important to keep that connection through these times. And I've said this before, this isn't from our angels, it's from me. And I've said it before in Earth Angel clubs and things like that. In like 2021, 2022, people were like, when is the energy going to get lighter? And I was like, guys, 2020 through 2024 is like a 4 to 5 year period where the initiation started, and it's the continuation of the same story. So it's like, picture that chunk of years as a mountain. And each year it's like the same themes, the same healing vein, but it's just another step up that same mountain. And then 2025 is like a whole new energy. So 2020 through 2024 is really preparing us for what's coming in 2025. And this has been the chunk of time that's like really turning us into the version of self that will be ready to really walk into unprecedented territory in 2025. And I think that's part of like that volcano energy too. So right now, while the energy is so turned up in 2024, we're in like masterclass vibes. We are in an area where it's like becoming so obvious what can't come with us into this next chapter, what needs to go, what isn't serving us, and it will continue to be turned up so high until we get that message. It's like, I've said this before in Sitting with Spirit, it will get more and more obvious. And then our angels gave us a message that kind of made me laugh because it's a little bit cheesy, but it's just coming back to the idea of like, we are no different than a houseplant. And they were literally showing me a houseplant being exposed to the news cycle 24/7 and it wilting. And I just get this feeling like, what would happen if we did that experiment? Like one houseplant had happy friends and community talking around it, and another one had the news cycle playing, all fear and scared. Like it would wilt, and there would be a difference. And we're no different than those houseplants. Like we need sunshine, we need good vibes, we need music, we need things that fill us up and help us grow. And I feel like this is kind of in combination with the intense energy and, our coping mechanisms being turned on high and all of this dysregulation. It's like, think of yourself like a houseplant. And this isn't the first time that message has ever been shared. I've never shared it, but I've heard this message before. We're no different than houseplants. And that's what our angels are reminding us of, is like, we need to really watch where we are loosening our energetic boundaries and barriers, and where we are letting things in that slowly poison us. And that's not to say stick your head in the sand and don't be aware, but where is your boundary where it's like, you get it, you've got the message, you know what's going on. Where are you co-creating with the news cycle, with external factors, with fear, with wounded narratives? Where are you co-creating with those things to a place where it's like you've got the message and now you've taken it to a destructive place? And so, interestingly, with the houseplant thing, it started to go into a message where they kind of use that to transition into something about coming into deeper communion with the land, with rebuilding, with gardening, with growing our own food. I just keep coming back to these themes of like, you don't need to live on a huge piece of land to start growing herbs you can work with, to start growing food. I just feel like there's something about the earth calling us back to her. And part of that could be very tangible, is like working with our hands, working with seeds, remembering the rhythms, remembering the soil, remembering all of that. And it was an interesting thing that fused in with the message about us being no different than a houseplant. So there is something here about cultivating the land, growing your own food, and feeling powerful and a next level spiritual connection through that cultivation as well. And then that moved me into such a beautiful image of strong, awakened, spiritual people. And I saw us making a circle around the planet and holding hands around the entire planet, holding the planet in our light. And I just got this message of hope that it's sort of like on the macro scale, how things are intensifying and how the shadows are revealing themselves, just like in the micro, how our coping mechanisms, our shadows and things that are coming up to be healed are turned on so freaking high right now. It's the same on the macro. And it can be so easy to feel alone, or like everyone's evil, or like consciousness isn't catching up. But I just get this really hopeful message that there's more people who are in alignment with love, that are doing even silent energetic work behind the scenes to raise the frequency of the planet. And that if we can just join each other in meditation, holding the earth in whatever color light we want to contribute to it, and just shining light from our heart space, I think that's a very beautiful energetic offering. And then, of course, you can always do acts of kindness for your community or for people that you love. Just keep shining your light, keep being a force for love. And that image of us holding hands around the globe, it's like there are a lot of people who are waking up, who are awake. Don't lose hope. Keep shining your light. And our angels are really highlighting that. And then I started to shift into the spirit connection, and they actually wanted to comment on something from the episode, which made me laugh. So we were talking a lot about paranormal activity and things happening in the house and this and that. And the message that they gave me is that when you get the message, it stops. When you get the message, it stops. So sometimes these people in spirit, yeah, maybe they just want you to see them and hear them and acknowledge them or know that they love you. That might be one thing. But the other message that I was getting is that sometimes these spirit people are actually your spirit guides, and they know that you're really scared, and they're teaching you to set a boundary. They're teaching you to remember your power. They're teaching you to use your voice. And once you do that, they don't have to keep doing that anymore. You've got the lesson. So sometimes it's past loved ones in spirit that we know. Sometimes it's actually spirit guides using this experience to wake us up, to remind us. Another example, which actually happened personally for me, is that if you're very energetically sensitive, like Tiffany and I, spirit people, spirit presences, they make themselves very known, and you can feel so plagued by it, so powerless. But as soon as I got the message and I started developing my mediumship, none of that happens anymore. Once you get the message, it stops. And it's so true. It's like, now I can understand that spirit is all love. Now I'm developing. Now I have a different perception of the spirit world. So if the paranormal dial is really turned up, guaranteed there's a message they're trying to get to you, whether it's an important message for you or for them to be told to you. And I think it's also no accident the spirit that chooses to reveal themselves to you as well. There might be something about their lessons, their personality, what they went through that's harmonious with some of your lessons. So there's no accidents with spirit, but they just wanted me to tell you guys that once you get the message, it stops. And I found that really funny. So I did have a female in spirit stepping through today. And this female in spirit felt like she passed a bit younger to me. I would say like 40s ish. And I got this feeling like she could not speak, she couldn't move. And I saw her like tied, like her body was tied down. And it felt like there was something here about convulsions or seizures, but that she wasn't in control of her body. And I was feeling like brain trauma. And I wasn't 100 on this, but I felt like it was a car accident and that there was something about hitting her head, brain trauma, brain injury. There was also a connection to being a musician with her. And I felt like it was more of in the classical sense, like in symphonies. I saw pianos, I saw cellos, and I felt like there was more of a classical music connection with her. And I saw her, she was talking about a male who's here. I want to say it was her romantic partner that she left behind, and him planting something in her honor. So it was really interesting to me how planting and things like that keep coming up and are woven through this sitting with spirit. But she was like talking about planting a tree or a garden, something like that in her honor. And she was also showing me the Golden Gate Bridge. So I felt like there was a connection to San Francisco with her. And then I also was seeing butterflies as a major sign for her loved ones in spirit. And her message was very sweet and very simple, which is we see what you build for us. And there is this feeling of like the tragedy being transmuted into something beautiful. And I know that we're on the heels as of recording. Hurricane Helene just happened and Hurricane Milton is scheduled to happen at any time. And I feel like there's something here about like through tragedy, we see what you rebuild with the space that was created. And so trees, gardens, things like that, it makes them so happy and proud and full of love. And they just want you to know that they see the things that you do to honor them, whether it's spreading their ashes on the ocean like they asked for, planting a significant tree, whether it's leaving flowers at their grave. They see all of that and they're so grateful. But there's also even another thing of like making the world a more beautiful place in their honor, like building something for them. And so if you're filled with grief, turning that emotion into creation or creativity in their honor in some way. And then the other thing I was seeing around her was she was showing me writing as being significant. And I feel like there's also a message here of like, tell my story, write my story. And I feel like that's another beautiful form of creation when they're saying we see what you build for us. That doesn't have to be just physical. I feel like there's also an element of like make a song, make a book, write my story, like work through creatively as an offering, and that we see that, we love that, and that wherever love is, they are, and that act of love and creation brings them so close. So I just thought that was a really beautiful and hopeful message in the wake of such intense times on earth and such destruction. It kind of goes back to what Sarah was saying in the episode about political witchcraft. It's like meeting such intense destruction with creation and the spirit world cheering us on through our creative acts and something better that we're building on earth. They're supporting us and guiding us to that in this time of intense energy. It's not like the spirit world and our angels and guides are just like, well, humans, 2025 is going to be gnarly. Good luck. It's like, no, they're working with us, with this ring of people holding hands around the world to make something better in the wake of such destruction. So I'll leave you with that message. Claire, is there anything you want to add or say?
Yeah, I just resonated so deeply with all of this. And, it has been a challenging time for me as well. And I feel like I keep thinking, I'm like, okay. And then here comes another challenge that is just asking me to, explore these things that are tough for me and face my fears. And I just loved the example you gave with the houseplant, because I think sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves, especially when things are hard. And I like to think of my inner child in those moments, or I like to think of like one of my loved ones' inner child. Like, how would I handle her in this difficult moment. And so I think for anyone who is navigating difficult times or even just the world at large, if it feels so heavy in this moment, being really gentle with yourself and connecting into these things about life that can be kind of simple, like the way the light falls through the trees or the feeling of an iced coffee in your hand or, how cozy it can be in your bed or the sound of your friend's laughter. It's like through all of these difficult moments, like we still do have these touchstones of joy and happiness. And I think it can be really powerful to relax into those, to just give yourself a little break and some deep, deep love.
Absolutely. And I think what I love about that too is that it really touches on the Scorpio Taurus polarity, where we're living through such Plutonian scorpionic times of intensity and transformation and death and rebirth. And so every single sign archetypally has a sister sign that's the antidote to when that energy gets too intense. And the sister sign for Scorpio is Taurus. And that's exactly what you're describing, coming back to sensory experiences, the taste of your favorite food as you savor it, the feeling of cold coffee. I mean, iced coffee. I don't drink coffee. I'm like, cold coffee. Yum.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Cold coffee, whatever floats your boat. The softness of the sheets, a scalp massage. It's like the simple pleasures of the physical body are so needed because it's such an intensely draining cerebral time, and everything in society is like information overload, blue light, disconnection, fear. It's like just coming back to the little micro moments of pleasure in the physical body. Grounding and presence is so important. So I love that so much.
Yeah, and that's accessible to us always. It's like sometimes life feels so big and heavy and out of control, but we still do have our inner peace and we can activate that, I think, in these simple sensory experiences. They can kind of help us connect back into that and ground us.
Absolutely. And I think our pets are such good examples of that too. If you have a
Yes.
pet, like Ronaldo, he's in the background. He is such a spiritual teacher for me, and he's so cute, obviously. But I just feel called to say, spend a little time in silence with your pets now. Like that could be another just sort of sensory experience. Just spend a little time with your pets. I also just wanted to say a quick note about Tiffany in the podcast that I just realized, since I'm talking about Taurus energy and she's a double Pisces Taurus rising. Taurus also rules building houses. And I find it so interesting that Pisces is like spiritual and connection and psychic, but then Taurus is like the physical building of houses and stuff. And she literally is like going to paranormal houses and places and looking for that. And I find that to be a really charming combination of a big three and how it manifested for her.
Yes, I love that. As a fellow Pisces moon, I really can relate to that spiritual, watery, witchy energy.
I know. Pisces moons are like such an advanced level placement to have. It's like no one said having a Pisces moon was easy. And I had a Pisces moon and sun mom myself, like I said. So if you have a Pisces moon, it's like you have the highest capacity for unconditional love. And the flip side of that can be disappointment when people can't meet you there. And there is a astrologer named Linda Goodman who wrote this book called Love Signs, and she talks about Pisces as the sign that walks the line between heaven and hell, basically meaning that they have the highest capacity for unconditional love, for romance, for giving of themselves, for creating their dream life, for living their passions. And then the reality of the world around them can constantly bump up against that vision. So it's so hard, in her opinion, for when you have that higher consciousness for what's possible to live in a world where that's not the case.
I feel that deeply.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, I'm just a little Scorpio over here with my own bag of shit, but I could see that for the Pisces.
Yeah, I think, it's like I feel this like big epic feeling about life and I feel like I can step into that in such a full way and then yeah, not everyone is meeting me there and that can be a little bit clunky.
Yeah. So if you're a Pisces sun or moon, we are creating a support group for you. Claire is the leader. um, no, just
We'll
joking.
swim and cry together. It'll be magical.
Cleanse yourself in the ocean, watch your favorite movies, talk about love. Sounds great.
It really does.
I know. Honestly, I would like to come. I'm like, I'm a Pisces. I'm just wearing a Pisces necklace.
All are welcome. All are
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you guys have a beautiful week. I know the energy is intense. Come back to the present. Really use this energetic moment to be the observer of yourself, your go tos, your coping mechanisms. And remember that in every single micro moment, you can make a new choice. Much love.